The latest on Ukraine. Earlier this morning, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke at the Munich Security Conference and warned Russia of unprecedented sanctions if it decides to invade. Take a listen.
We are prepared to move forward with consequences. We have prepared together economic measures that will be swift, severe, and united. We will impose far-reaching financial sanctions and export controls.
Certainly an aggressive speech from the vice president and a little bit more specifics than we got from President Joe Biden yesterday. Take a listen.
How much of it is a cover for just saying we're just doing exercises and there's more than that? I just can't. It's hard to read his mind.
Meanwhile, tensions have continued to increase overnight. This car exploded in a parking lot in the center of the city of Donetsk around 7 p.m. Moscow time. Russian media claim that this was a Ukrainian attack, but Ukrainian and U.S. officials are calling this part of a false flag operation being used by Putin to justify an invasion. Let's take a look at the map here, and you can see the situation in Ukraine right now. If you take a look at these areas where you've got red and yellow around the areas of Ukraine, those are areas that are occupied either by Russia or Russian-aligned forces. That car bombing happening right here in this region last night. Pro-Russian separatists have now begun to mobilize their military in that region. So you can see a little bit of that cause and effect starting to happen there. You have the car bomb, which may have been caused intentionally, and now you have the leader of the separatists who are in this area calling on all men who can hold weapons to defend their families. So as you look at this, you see that this is not just an issue of Russia coming in. This is an issue of folks that are aligned with Russia, forces in different areas within the borders of Ukraine, also being prepared to be part of a potential Russian invasion. So here's a look at some of the other hot spots in the region. Let's take a look at Crimea. Again, Crimea is a place where Russia can stage. They can stage military, and that could also be a point where they can stage an invasion. This is the peninsula that sits on the Black Sea that Putin seized when President Obama was in the White House and Joe Biden was vice president. In the north, you take a look at Ukraine's border with Belarus. Belarus is aligned with Russia. You can see it up there. The country's leader saying that it would be willing to host nuclear weapons to defend itself. Belarus is basically a pawn of Moscow. On Ukraine's northeast border, you see the Russians have mobilized a significant amount of troops and military equipment. There are an estimated 150,000 Russian troops along the Ukraine border. You can see them here marked with these triangles. Those are the locations of the Russian infantry and armored divisions all surrounding Ukraine. Meanwhile, there are reports of artillery shelling striking a ring of frontline towns in eastern Ukraine yesterday. I want to underscore how much restraint it is taking for Zelensky and Ukrainian forces there not to fire back, which is exactly what Vladimir Putin is hoping for. It's why you're seeing this shelling. They're trying to bait them into responding. Speaking of Vladimir Putin, today he oversaw nuclear military drills in the Black Sea. President Biden saying yesterday he doesn't see any threat of a nuclear conflict. But this does have the potential to be possibly the largest military operation in Europe since the Second World War. Here's a look at the U.S. and Russian positions as we pulling back here. You can see the United States maintains about 80,000 troops in Europe. There have been about 4,700 repositioned to Poland, about another 1,000 that have been repositioned from Germany into Romania over the last number of weeks. And NATO has the ability to field a fast action force of about 40,000 troops very quickly if necessary. Those forces have not been called up. The Russian allied countries are in red. The NATO allied countries are in blue. The U.S. bases that are closest to Ukraine are in Kosovo and in Bulgaria down here. Russia has a base in Crimea and in Transnistria. This is Transnistria over here, another one of these areas that is within the borders of Ukraine, but also is aligned with Russia. Now let's talk about how dangerous this could be for the Ukrainians. Here's a comparison of the U.S. military forces between Russia and Ukraine, and the difference, as you can see, is very, very stark. Russia has almost 2.5 million more troops and 18,000 more tanks than the Ukrainians. On the high seas, it's important to remember the Russians have the world's second largest navy by total number of warships. Vladimir Putin was also participating in some of those drills, those ballistic missile drills in the Baltic today using naval forces. Ukraine's navy consists of mainly just patrol craft. In the air, you can see the air superiority is very clear. They have almost 1,000 fighting aircraft at its disposal. The Ukrainians have about 38 planes and no bombers. For his part, President Zelensky continues to urge calm and has shied away from the urgent rhetoric of the Biden administration. And another development this morning, Germany and Austria are now following America's lead, and they are urging their citizens to leave Ukraine. For more, let's check in with our Moscow correspondent Julia Chapman for the latest live in Russia to give us a perspective from the shadow of the Kremlin. Julia.
Tensions between Russia and the West at the moment for all the reasons you've just been outlining. And it doesn't seem that the temperature is going to be turned down anytime soon. President Putin today oversaw this very aggressive show of force, overlooking at the Kremlin, watching these military exercises happening all around Russia, involving the launch of several nuclear-capable missiles. They were ballistic, hypersonic, and cruise missiles being deployed from a number of different parts of Russia, some of them traveling thousands of miles across the country to the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia's far east. This comes as Russian state media says that almost every single military district, naval fleet, and airborne unit is involved in some sort of military exercises right now. That's what Russia's been saying it's been doing on the Ukrainian border all along. But the sheer number of troops involved in these drills and the hardware as well that is stationed on the Ukrainian border is causing a lot of alarm. And as you mentioned, there are also fears that Russia could be preparing a false flag operation in eastern Ukraine with the help of the Russian-backed separatists there. We have seen an uptick in violence in recent days, with each side accusing the other of carrying that out. And this evacuation of civilians from the Donetsk and Luhansk regions is also very concerning. More than 1,000 people have already arrived here in Russia, according to state media here, and it is expected that they could be evacuating some 700,000 people, a huge operation. And if that does indeed happen, then of course that would raise tensions even further, allowing for a possible pretext for the Russian government to say it needs to protect these civilians and move in.
Okay, we're going to be continuing to follow this. Julia Chapman, thank you so much for that report. President Biden continuing to warn of an imminent invasion of Ukraine, yesterday going so far as to say that he believes that Vladimir Putin has made up his mind. Take a listen.
We have reason to believe the Russian forces are planning to and intend to attack Ukraine in the coming week, in the coming days.
Do you feel confident that he hasn't made that decision already?
As of this moment, I'm convinced he's made the decision. We have reason to believe that.
For more on this situation, we welcome back to the program Nebraska Congressman Don Bacon. Congressman, you have a military background, and we thank you for your service. We appreciate you being here. This continues to be a situation that, according to the Biden administration, it is imminent. But there is a disconnect between the White House and President Zelensky over these allegations of an imminent invasion. What do you make of that?
It's hard to understand the leader of Ukraine. Maybe he's just trying to instill more confidence in his citizens. But it looks to me, with all the intelligence that we have and the actions by Putin, it sure appears to me that President Putin has decided to invade. Why else would you put field hospitals on the border? Why would you be taking blood donations there for troops that would get injured? All the preparations you would expect to see an invasion are being done. And what bothers me is our world is entering a new chapter when it comes to foreign affairs and national security. And it's a chapter that's more dangerous, more precarious, more ominous, a chapter where bullies and thugs are trying to dominate. It's not just Russia. China's watching this. Iran's watching it. And so I feel bad. We're going down a bad path in our world right now. And but I think the intelligence is pretty clear that Russia's preparing to invade.
Do you think that we're looking at a full-scale invasion, Congressman, or just enough for Putin to be able to flex his muscle and maybe Zelensky work out a side deal with him so that he is able to maintain power?
You know, it's really hard to know what Putin is thinking. It appears to me a large-scale invasion is more likely. You know, Putin wants Ukraine to be part of its country. They don't see Ukraine people as being independent. They're like junior brothers, Slavic brothers in Putin's mind. He wants to go back to Peter the Great era, where to broaden out the sphere of influence. So to me, it's more logical that he's preparing a large invasion, but we really don't know. We don't know what's in his mind. But I think most intelligence sources out there would say he's planning a large invasion.